I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cognomovement system. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello in UK Health Radio Land. I am Liz Larson, and I'm here with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
And we are the hosts of the New Life Perspectives radio show, and we just happen to be the pair that created the Cognomovement system. And today we have a really special guest, and this one is special for me. I'll share with you why, but it is the very famous and best-selling author, Pam Grout. When I asked her, hey, Pam, how do you want to be introduced? She said this: she is a human being trying to spread light. And that is one of our people for sure. So welcome, Pam.
Hey, great to be here.
It's so exciting. So how many books do you have that are bestsellers?
Oh, I don't know for sure how many of them are bestsellers, 3 or 4. I've written 20 books so far.
20.
And I don't know how many of them. One of them, E Squared was the one, number 1 in the New York Times, number 1. Some of the others were on the list as well. And then some people say bestseller if you make a particular category at Amazon. So if you look at it like that, every one of my books is a bestseller. But as far as the one that, really was on the New York Times list for, 37 weeks, been translated into 40 languages, that was E Squared. And that was the big one. It was actually my 16th book, but it's the one that, put me on the map. In fact, when you had written to me about my other book, Jumpstart Your Metabolism, which I understand we're going to talk about a little bit. That one had been written many, many, many years ago, and it didn't do well. But I tell you what, having E Squared come out and make this big splash like it did is just all my other books are selling and all my new books sell. So it's been nice. So I don't know exactly how many are official bestsellers, but certainly I have 20 books and they've all done well. So anyway, I'm quite proud of every last one of them.
I can't even imagine 20 books. Bill's written a book and I have written our 2 ebooks, which are, they're only 60 pages each. And man, is that like giving birth? It's hard. So 20, I can't even imagine. That's a real feat. Are they all about, I know the book I want to talk about is about breathwork, but are they all about consciousness or manifesting, or are they other topics?
Well, half of my books are travel books. I've done 3 books for National Geographic, for example. I've been a travel writer for, many, many, many years. And so I did these 3 books for National Geographic. And then I did other, smaller books, again, travel books. I've done a book called Colorado Curiosities, Kansas Curiosities, Girlfriend's Getaway Guide. If you want to get away on it, it used to be girlfriend getaways were a big thing. So when that first was a theme, I had a book on, how to go on a girlfriend getaway guide. So like I said, nowadays, it may be the self-help inspirational might be outnumbering the travel books, but it's about even. They're pretty close because those are, 2 of my loves. I have many, many loves, but anyway, yes. So travel books and inspirational books.
Wow. Well, I'd love to know how, what got you into the more inspirational area. I mean, that's our genre. Health is a genre of this network, but Bill and I, it's, ideas and inspiration. What got you there from the first book, Jumpstart Your Metabolism, all the way to ideas and inspiration?
Well, you mentioned that it was hard to write a book, or that was quite a feat.
For me, it was.
Right. So this is what I'm going to say. For me, that's what I feel like my gift was. That was what I was meant to do. I love to write. Every moment is a joy. I have been so blessed that I've been able to have a career that I absolutely love, And the cool thing about writing, again, I love to travel. So you start travel writing and you get to travel for free. So it's just a way to open so many doors. So I really got into all this stuff through writing. I was one of these kids that back in 2nd grade, I had read like 300 books and I got a special award. I mean, these were like picture books, you know what I mean? When you're in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I was acknowledged for reading a lot. And back then, so you read a lot, you start thinking, oh, I could write a book. I mean, doesn't everybody, right? I mean, you can't believe how people come and go, hey, I want a book. Or I want to write a book. I've got an idea for a book. But anyway, so I wrote books way back when I was in second grade, and I illustrated them, Patty the Penguin, Blackie the Bear. So, I was just always doing this kind of thing. So to me, writing is the gift. That's what I meant to do. That's how I express myself. That's how I mentioned, that I'm, consider myself a human spreading light on this planet. And that's my way of spreading light, is by writing. I write a blog post, a free blog post. Anybody can read it. I think I've got about 1,000 messages on there. I even paid to have ads taken off. I mean, I'm not at all about capital or, maximizing profit. That's just not me. I'm not into that. I feel like there's a lot of problems with that kind of a system. So I'm all about, just offering my gifts. And I feel like everybody wants to offer their gifts. And, there's some changes that need to be made out there so that everyone is capable. Everyone is, first of all, in touch with their gifts. And then second of all, able to use those gifts to help other people. So in fact, once E Squared became this big hit, I got asked to speak in Japan and Finland and Peru, and I mean, all over the world. I was already a world traveler because of, my travel books, but it was just like, it's like, I don't speak. I'm not a speaker. I don't give seminars, that's not me. But of course, you write a book and people ask you to do that. So I don't know that I've learned how to do it, but again, it's not my big wheelhouse. Most of what I have to say, I always think it's so funny. People will pay all this money to come, hear me at a live event. Like everything I have to say is in that $12 book. I mean, you know what I mean? Why do you want to spend all this money? But I guess people like to be around energy or something. I don't know. But anyway, so again, I give workshops, or I call them play shops. That's a big distinction. I don't feel like we should market things. I don't call, as you notice in that breathing book, I didn't call them exercises. Even back then, I called them energy cocktails. I think that anything that's difficult and hard like that, we're going to, eventually not want to do it anymore. So we have to make it fun. And that's kind of another way I spread light, is by making things fun, by making them enjoyable to read, enjoyable to do, and powerful, so that's the whole ticket right there.
Well, it's so true. So for those of you watching on YouTube, this was my introduction to Pam Grout, and it was Jumpstart Your Metabolism. And I think I found it for the first time at Powell's Books in Portland, Oregon, the city of books. Have you been there? It's like
I have,
a magical place. I could live there. And I learned about breathwork. And of course, I was attracted to the metabolism part, as a young woman, thinking, hey, shortcut to weight loss, I'm in. And I just absolutely fell in love with breathwork, which, as it turned out, actually saved my life and is saving my life daily. And Bill also has a big connection to breathwork. For the last 2+ years, he's been leading a breathwork not a workshop, but a guiding breath work every morning, 7 days a week for a group. But, later on, after I started using your book and breath work, I discovered that I had a genetic lung disease. So because of what I had learned already in your book, I have been able to keep it under control. My diagnosis is like 17 years. My expiration date was many years ago. And you can hear I'm happy and healthy most of the time. And breath work does that for me. This morning, I was sharing with my daughter, I jumped up my breath work again. You fall away and you come back. And I was telling her that yesterday, as I was working, all of a sudden, my lung capacity opened. And I could breathe deeper and exhale longer. And it's this huge rush, just incredible. So also, I buy this book as often as I can find it. And I think I've given away 14 or 15 copies.
Wow, how cool is that? I love it.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you, my heartfelt gratitude for writing this book and for the ability for me to find it and for it to really make a massive impact in my life. So I really appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. It's interesting to me. I wrote that book, oh, wow, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe. I'm not sure what the exact date is. I had self-published it before Simon and Schuster bought it, the copy you have. But nowadays, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wim Hof. He does a
Yeah.
lot of breathing work. James Nestor just came out with a book called Breath, and it was a bestseller. So it's like these principles, these things I was talking about 20 years ago have become not only mainstream, but even like bestsellers. So it's funny because everything I seem to write, it comes out just a little bit ahead of the curve. Like the book E Squared that, was this international sensation. I had written it about 8 years before it became the international sensation as under another title, basically the same book. And, it went out of print, 8 people read it. Those 8 people loved it. You know what I mean? So it's all
Yeah.
about timing, I guess. So I guess I have a habit of, writing about things that are just a little bit ahead of the curve and then other people, will catch up to it. But anyway, so thank you for finding my book and for enjoying it. And as I said before we actually started the recording, I went back and read that book because I thought the whole interview was going to be about that. And it's just funny how cheeky I was, but also to recognize how much I did talk about energy then, which of course is what, the books that have been bestsellers have been about, was about energy. So even back then, I mean, the two are combined, even though they seem a little bit separate. Even my traveling in this is the same, how I've been able to travel and all that. So anyway, it's all connected, but it was fun to go back and review that book. And so anyway, thank you for asking for an interview about
Well,
the book.
it's a fun book. And I love books that strangely aren't so wordy. And this book felt like it has these interesting little, gray sections. I think maybe those are called the olive. And, it's so easily readable. And that's what I tell people when I give it to them. It's easy to read. You'll get through it quickly and you'll be able to use it today. Bill, why don't you share just a little bit about the breathwork class that you're doing and how much it's helping people, just for Pam and the audience?
Oh gosh. So at the start of the pandemic, right? I knew, right? Through that whole, the Tibetan lineage of breath work, that they had like superhuman capabilities. A lot of it had been popularized by Wim Hof, but I knew, and actually, thank God for him, because there was scientific research behind, all of it, right? That your immunity can be just boosted like to absolute nutty levels, and the Tibetans knew this, but thanks to Wim, we have the scientific research behind that. So anyway, and yourself, and obviously you're pioneer in this as well, and it started doing not only the breath, but also there's an emotional component. They had figured out that your immunity now, like gosh, you've heard of what is his name? Dr. Joe
Dispenza?
Joe Dispenza, yeah, and his work around the heart and that sort of thing, and gratitude. But they've done the blood work on that and discovered there's 50% jumps in your IgA level, and the cells have an immunity if you are in that love joy space, that now they have the science behind it. So what we did was combine the love and gratitude in the heart and doing this Tibetan type breathing to stimulate the double stimulation. And it's the fun thing about it is that the entire group for 2 years now, not so much as a sniffle out of the entire group. So it's we're doing it every day, but hey, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah. And the thing it is, and what I said in that book, it's always with us. There's oxygen around us all the time. And because most of us aren't taking in what we're capable of taking in, we don't appreciate all it can do for us. But it's free, it's available, it's always available, it's easy to do. It's like, why wouldn't we do this? And is it because somebody decided, well, we can market, a bunch of diet books, or we can market a bunch of other things? Why take this thing that's completely free to anybody that wants it? I mean, most all of our tools that we can use are completely at our, everything we need to heal, to be, all we need to be is within us, everything. But when we go out looking elsewhere, that's what sets up the problem. Because first of all, if you're looking elsewhere, you're forgetting that you already have it. So it's just this incredible discover. It's not even discovery. It's like it's always there, even when you're not aware of it. It's tapping into it because it's always there. It's working whether you're aware of it or not.
It's 100% true. Let's talk a little more about that when we get back. I mean, that's at the heart of what Bill and I talk about constantly. It's this natural ability of the body to let go of anything that it needs, that's not resourceful, including viruses and bacteria and all kinds of things. So let's hear from our sponsors at the UK Health Radio Network, and we'll continue our conversation with Pam Grout. And we're back. So in your subsequent books, like you said, E cubed and E squared became, just worldwide phenomenon. You do what you call energy experiments. So I'm always so curious, when you wrote this book, were you doing those yourself? Were you experimenting with them yourself? Had you learned them from somewhere? But where did it come from?
Well, those experiments were basically a crafty ploy to get people to use these principles that work in our lives. So I set them up as experiments so people would, they'd have a 48-hour time frame to try this out. But what they are, there's 9 spiritual principles. There were 10 in the original book, the one that went out of print, the God Doesn't Have Bad Hair Day. There's 9 experiments, and I set it up like a scientist's, little, report. There's a hypothesis, and there's a theory. It either works or it doesn't. You can falsify it. So we set it up the way they would do that. And again, what's 48 hours? Anybody is willing to try that. So what I did really was trick people into trying this. And I cannot tell you how many emails I get to this day, but particularly in the beginning that start with, "You are never going to believe this." And so I always wonder, have you been, these principles, asking ye shall receive. I mean, these energy, you mentioned that these have been out there forever, but somehow or another, we've forgotten about them. But anyway, so it's just a way of tricking people into recognizing that power within, that connection they have to the energy source. And it's just a fun thing to do. I mean, people really got off on sharing with each other. "Oh, look at this." And the whole book spread by word of mouth. I didn't market it. Again, I'm not a marketer. Even Hay House, didn't put much behind it until people started talking about it. And then they had Wayne Dyer doing the experiments and Louise Hay. And they got on board only after all these other people, word of mouth, simply through the internet, got it. And also, one of the things I like to say is, I said I've had 2 versions of that book. I was really big on getting on a frequency of joy and gratitude. And when the book came out the first time, I'm not saying I wasn't on that frequency, but I feel like by the time it came out the second time, I'd written the 3 books for National Geographic. I didn't bemoan the fact that this book I loved didn't do very well. I just simply went on and continued to get happier doing what I love. And then, of course, it came out and my frequency was so full of joy and gratitude. It's like, how could the book do anything but what it did do? And, on the night before, New Year's Eve, it came out in 2013, and on 2012 New Year's Eve, I was in Savannah, Georgia with my sister. We were watching the fireworks. So I took a stick, and in a big, along the beach there at Tybee Island, I wrote, "E squared will be an international bestseller." And then I let the waves come in and take it out into the world. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't anything to do with my marketing prowess. I'm not a marketer, as I keep saying. It's just like it was meant to be out there at that time. It was meant to do what it has done. And, I'm very proud of it. Like I said, I've met people from all over the world through this book. I've learned that the world is a very small place, that we're all exactly the same and that we're all connected. And it's just been a real blessing in my life and a real treat. And like I said, just writing in general has been such a blessing. And I've led a really, blessed life.
That's incredible. it really is, for Bill and I'm sure it's going through his head at the same time. What we discovered was that the block that people have to doing some of these things is the minute they think about it, the idea, "I can't," and that stuck feeling in the body just goes, "Ugh." But in your case, you were so open and the energy was flowing and moving that there just, like you said, there wasn't anything else that could happen. But for that book to blow up and for everybody to have the opportunity to experience it. So in our work, we use that the body's natural responses, the left and right brain, the hemisphere, the place cells in the brain, the interaction between the body and the brain on the nervous system to clear that stuck feeling in the body. So when that releases, there's that the same thing happens. The body just moves right into this natural state of joy. And the thing they want, it's right there anyway. It's just standing right outside the field, walks in the door. And the same thing, people are like, oh my God, you're never going to believe this. Like the same thing. And we believe it every time because we know that that's it. It's that vibration, that sensation of feeling open and free and ready for that thing to come in that makes it happen. So what's the difference between E cubed and E squared? Is it more experiments or is there a deeper understanding? What's the difference between the two?
Well, okay, you have a book as big as E squared, everybody's going to want a sequel, right? I mean, that's just how the publishing industry works. But I was writing a lot of blog posts at that time, and I thought, oh, it'd be easy to do E cubed. I mean, that was like the, in fact, I've gone on to do 6 different books for Hay House, but E cubed has 9 more experiments, again, energy experiments. And they basically, I call them corollaries of the 9 principles that E squared, talks about. These 9 principles that are the fact about the way the world works, natural law, that we are connected to this energy field, that we are a part of this energy field, but we affect the energy field. So the E cubed, and one of the things that was kind of fun in E cubed, I have a chapter in there called Well, Duh. And I list a lot of the stories that people sent to me about their results after they did the experiments. And there's some remarkable things. And I'm all about, let's talk about the remarkable things, because I talk a lot about problem state versus possibility state. And we tend to live in this culture in problem state. And as long as we keep focusing on problem state and the problem, the thing that needs to be fixed, we can't get into possibility state. Because, it must be the same kind of thing that you're doing. It blocks this problem state. The thing I love is that possibility state is there. It's just our awareness of it might be blocked. But so anyway, that's kind of my work in a nutshell, is getting people to move from, it's like, I wrote this blog post once, and I've done a thing in my Courts in Miracles book. And I said that my hero, one of my mentors, is Colonel Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. You guys might remember him. One of the things he said all the time was, I know nothing. So I say that all the time, because the less I know, because most everything I know is taught to me by my culture, taught to me by limitation, problem state, this whole Kool-Aid that we've all drunk about the world is scary. This whole scarcity principle is so huge out there, and everybody's living their life feeling separate and scarce, and they believe that's the way the world is. So I know nothing is the perfect door for the truth to make itself aware. So I'm all about, open that door, and, whatever I think I know, I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm always wrong. I'm okay to be wrong. I want the truth. I want the bigger thing. And it's there, like I said, it's right there. So
we shared that idea with you that the thing that you want, that it's right there. It's literally there. And all that you have to do is be a match. Like it's there all the time. You can have it. And also that we live in a society, and I always joke about it, it's kind of the Oprah effect. You never get on Oprah if you have a great life. Get on Oprah if you have the worst thing possible happen to you. You have to have a tragedy. We honor tragedy. It's what's on the news. It's what a lot of people write about. So when anybody like you, with such a big splash in the world, so many people reading your book, are shifting that consciousness to know, actually, we could focus on joy. That's amazing. That's what we need. We need to shift away from honoring and valuing tragedy so much, honoring the negative. Speaking of which, Bill was telling me when he read your book that there's something specific he likes about the way you write. You want to share that with everybody, Bill?
Oh, I just loved so much the way you write. It is so stimulating, and you not twist, but you describe things so eloquently, and but yet in the common everyday man's language that is like, I mean, so you know how you say, I write with joy? When I'm reading your book, and I can feel that, because it's like fun to read, right? There's so many books like you're, oh my God, Jesus, what's the next chapter? Maybe, and but actually your joy actually comes through, and you can feel it, and you're like, obviously why did this thing become a worldwide bestseller is because you gave people not only information, but there was a frequency that went with it where you gave them a feeling, and you gave them access to another part of themselves like you did. I mean, here I am. I don't know you from anybody. I mean, Liz told me, oh my God, Pam Grout. Oh my God. She was on. And I'm like, and by the way, okay, here's a weird one. Liz says, hey, we got the interview, and 2 days before this showed up. I have no idea who sent it to me. I open my mail, and I go, and there's no, gift from Amazon card. It's just like this shows up 2 days before. I was like, hey, Liz, did you send me the book? I said, because she started talking about Pam Grout, and I was like, guess what?
Well, duh, as we say.
Yeah, well, duh. So we're obviously energetically all connected, supposed to be here. Things are showing up. It actually, 2 separate times you showed up, and all in this little time span. So it was, I just found that, I was like, when I heard Liz, say your name, I was like, okay, Bill, pay attention. Pay attention.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories, like people will be in a bookstore and it would fall off on their head, and all just different things like that. And the weirder the story, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I'm really focusing on the weird, far out stories, because I don't want any other story. Anything you could watch. Like the story that I've been loving the most lately is about some indigenous people that literally will walk into a cave with some ailment, say cataracts or a broken foot, and they will go in there. That's the superposition in the big quantum field that they're in. But they go in there, they walk out free of cataracts, free of the broken ankle, and literally the conglomeration of molecules and however that works, atoms, it literally became out of a different person. That consciousness is still there. They're the same person, but they literally come out a different person. And that's such a far out story, and people go, but I want people to look at me and go, that's ridiculous. That's what I do. I talk about what other people say is ridiculous. But to me, it's ridiculous to keep talking about these old ways that are not working. And I feel like everything's coming to a screeching halt. Everything's falling apart. That old way of being is no longer working. It's becoming painfully clear. So it's really great that we're having these kind of conversations about new ways of being, new ways of connecting with the truth of this energetic field that we're all a big part of, this quantum field that every one of us is hooked into.
It's kind of funny. So our first book is called Suffering is Optional, because really it's something that Bill said all the time. And I've been told I have to change the title because it's a downer. But I think it's what you're saying. And it's what we're saying. Okay, yeah, that's one option. But the other option is not to suffer, not to be sick. So just for myself, I really could have gone down the road of, having a lot of medical treatments and, dying very young. But I'm not choosing that. I choose breath work. I choose to unwind that pattern in my nervous system, in my genetics. Thanks to our work, I know how to do that. Right. So it's optional. on the planet. It's also optional to suffer over things you want to manifest. I think that's something that the law of attraction movement brought, this hope that we could do it and the principles, but also a lot of suffering of people who just, I can't do it, it's not happening. And now we know, oh, you can delete that feeling out of your body. That's just a little stumbling block. But the thing is right there, and you can actually choose a path to be really joyful. I think it's a foreign idea, joy, to a lot of people. Let's put a pin in that right there. Let's hear from our lovely sponsors at the UK Health Radio. And when we come back, we'll hear more about Pam's amazing work. And maybe, Bill, you can share with us one of your favorites from the book, An Energy Experiment. Would you be willing?
Well, I have something planned that supports exactly what Pam is saying.
Okay.
Quantum level.
Perfect. All right, UK Health Radio, take it away. And we are back. So Pam, you said that you have like 6 books since, E cubed and E squared. What are some of the other topics? What else are you thinking about these days?
Well, after E cubed, I did a book called Thank and Grow Rich. You've heard of it.
Yes.
Think and Grow Rich, but no,
Yes.
it's all about gratitude and joy. And it's all about getting on the gratitude frequency. And it's a great takeoff on that old Napoleon Hill title, but it's all about gratitude and joy and just what we've been talking about, and how that's how things happen in your life. Not, in fact, I think we should all quit trying. I'm kind of all for the end of self-help. Because again, if we think we need to help ourselves when there's really no self to help, it's like, we're going back to that self that we've created, but it's like, let's go to a different self. I mean, we're creating it all the time anyway. So yes, I'm all about joy. So there's that one. That came after E squared, E cubed, Think and Grow Rich. And then I did a book called Art and Soul Reloaded, and it was a book about creativity and spirituality and how they're very similar. God is creative. God is the big creator, or whatever term you want to use for God, that energy force. So it's a book about, being more creative, hooking into that part of ourselves. And then let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and then I did one called Course in Miracles Experiment. You might have heard of the book, The Course in Miracles Experiment.
Yeah.
And again, very ponderous, very heavy. So I rewrote the 365 lessons, that help you do the mind training in a fun Pam Grout way. In fact, I originally was going to call it Course in Miracles for Badasses, but they didn't like that title. They said, your books are translated into so many different languages that badass doesn't always translate. So anyway, it ends up being the Course in Miracles Experiment. But I've got an app out with that in it as well, that is called Course in Miracles for Badasses. And it's, so it's 365 fun little lessons that you do. Again, I don't use the word lessons. What do I call them? Just, 365 what to use in the Course in Miracles to rewire your mind. So that's the most recent one, is the Course in Miracles Experiment. So those are my Hay House books. Then of course I have a whole long line of books that came out before all that.
Yeah. Rewired, that's right up our alley, that language. We use remap, but rewiring the brain, remapping the nervous system, changing the automatic responses. If you can get in there and change that, rewire it, like you say, you can change the way your next thought and your next thought and your next thought from there on after are. But we know that the nervous system gets these deep grooves, these wires that are just like, the size of a Volkswagen, the wire that goes from, sometimes despair or shock or grief or, loneliness, any of those things. And if you can just change that, just change the way that wire is moving, reroute the energy. We know that those patterns in the body, they cost a huge amount of your horsepower, your energy. So you're talking about this joyous, expansive feeling that takes energy. And when I say it's like rerouting.
No. It creates energy. See, I would argue with that. It doesn't cost energy. It creates energy.
No. What I'm saying costs energy is the old pattern that keeps you out of that joyful. And when you are release that, you get this great amount of energy back that you can use for all of this. So I always say that the old patterns are like rerouting the horsepower of a Maserati all to the door locks,
Mhm.
right? Not resourceful. So when you release that, you have this great, joyful, energetic availability. That's what I was trying to say, not so eloquently. So anyway, we're on the same page with you about that. We know that those rewiring the brain or remapping the nervous system is just incredibly valuable. So you feel like the experiments, do you feel like they take people step by step to rewiring the brain by experience or?
Well, okay, the Course in Miracles book, that's the one that has that
Yeah.
subtitle. I love all my subtitles of all my books. I love words. I love writing. So those are fun for me. But the Course in Miracles experiment is a 365-day something to rewire your mind and find concept. I'd have to look at it. I don't remember what it was. It is about rewiring. And that is the one where you're, step by step rewiring your mind. And it is the 365 lessons that are in the original Course in Miracles book, only rewritten in Pam Grout speak, basically. And how that book came about, I was just blogging about this. I start with the Course in Miracles January 1st every year. And I was blogging about it in 2018, January 1st, January 2nd. And, 30 days in, or maybe 2 weeks in, people are like, you need to turn this into a book. And, not that I'm, slow or anything, but after you hear like 50, 60 emails or comments, you say, okay, maybe I need to turn it into a book. So I contacted Hayes and said, okay, here's the guidance I'm getting. Guidance is like a 2x4. You need to turn this into it. So that's how that book came about. It wasn't really, it was obviously mine to do. Course in Miracles talks a lot about guidance. We're giving guidance, and our job is to spread the light, to listen to that guidance and to act on it with the help of what they call the Holy Spirit in Course in Miracles, or what I call that energy force, whatever you want to call it, but this connection that we have with its guidance, which is always clearer and more apropos than anything I can come up with. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. I love that kind of guidance where it just happens. It sounds like that happens to you a lot in your life. And that's that being in that expansive state, I'm sure.
Well, I know nothing, so that's why.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. So if someone were going to, maybe they've never heard of you before, it would be odd if they hadn't, but let's say they haven't. And they were thinking about starting down the path of learning how to be in this open, joyful, expansive state. Which book would you say, okay, start here?
Well, the gratitude book could maybe be a short course. In fact, one of the things I said in the opening of that book is, I told about all these amazing stories that people would write to me, but there were always those people that would write in line and say, this didn't work for me. You hear that too. And I said, well, and when people would write, I'd always, write back in the day when I was still able to write back to people. And I would say, let the universe handle it. You're trying to handle it. That's part of the problem. But anyway, so it was all about, here's a real simple little tool just to, if you amp up your gratitude, it's so simple. It's so easy. I find like all the powerful stuff is really easy. It really does change how you look at things. I mean, if you think about it, you go outside and in a little square foot of yard, there are how many blades of grass? I mean, talk about abundance. Free water. The source of everything falls from the sky. Sun that comes down and grows food. I mean, the gifts that we have are unbelievable. Yet we're so busy being in problem state and, oh no, I spilled whatever on my shirt or whatever. I don't know. But it's like these gifts are all around us. And so that book, it has, what did I call it in that book? It has my AA 2.0 program, which is about amazing awesomeness. And that was something I blogged about. And so it has that in it. But it also has these other little fun, and I can't remember what I called it in that book, but, fun little gratitude practices to try, counting your blessings in all different ways, counting your blessings of things that you look at every day, or seeing the things you look at every day in a different way. Or, I mean, I don't know, there's Act Like Jimmy Fallon was one. I mean, I tend to write it kind of in pop culture things, but just all kinds of things. I mean, interesting. I was listening to a podcast last night, speaking of Jimmy Fallon, was Questlove, and he talked about how he is just so into gratitude. He said he will not put his feet on the floor before he has already listed off 20 pieces of gratitude. And it all started, he did that Summer of Soul, that documentary that came out last year. I think it's up for an Academy Award. But he said he used to poo-poo people like that. The people that would say gratitude, like, yeah, right. He said now he goes, before he'll set his foot on the floor, he's going to have that gratitude going. So, people realize it changes your life. I mean, one of the quotes in E Squared, Willie Nelson said, once I started counting my blessings, my entire world turned around. So, I mean, that would be it. You don't need any other tools or any other thing to just start being grateful. And that's all you need to do. How easy is that?
It's a massive shift of perspective. And Bill is funny because he's always talking and teaching about this. Like, we talk about abundance. Look at how much paint there is how many doorknobs there are in the world. Can you imagine a world without doorknobs at this point? Like, there's doorknobs. So it's funny because he's always talking about that. So speaking of which, Bill, you said you were going to share a little something with our audience that is lockstep with what Pam's talking about.
Okay. Well, Pam mentioned, people going into a cave and this quantum effect that just seemed ridiculous. Like, wait a second, somebody's bones got better, or, things that seem incurable all of a sudden got better. And there's an amazing effect that we, with our thoughts and feelings, have on physical reality. Now, having said that, I know when I tell people about this, the listeners, you're going to go, oh, you are so high. There's no way possible that this could work. But I'm going to tell you that this actually, no kidding, happened. And I learned this technique, and from the only way I can describe it as another master. And they talk about like breaking their bones or burning their hands or different things, and then doing this technique and gone. Like, how does that work, right? I mean, literally, the bone's broken. Don't tell me it's not broke. I see it. Okay, it is broken. Or I have a cut and it is in fact bleeding, right? Well, what you do is to simply do the exact same action. Let's say, for example, which is one of the things I did afterwards. Now, this is really strange, but I found myself burning my hands after I learned this. I guess it was to force me to do it, right? Because, right, I'm not hurt, right? So I don't have an opportunity. And now all of a sudden I'm burning my hands like crazy. I'm pulling pans out of the oven. I'm like, why did you do that? Okay, so what do you do? What do you do? You literally do the exact same action. Let's say that I stubbed my toe. Do the exact same action and repeat to yourself, my toe is fine, nothing happened. My toe is fine, nothing happened. And you do the same action. Now, when you do this, you must, and I repeat, must ignore whatever sensation your body is having and fully embrace, nothing happened, my toe is perfect. If you burn your hand and you touch the plate or the whatever it is, nothing happened, my hand is perfect. And just continue to repeat it and continue to do the exact same motion, and depends on what's happened. And you will find you'll turn your hand over. When at first you looked at it, it's like, oh my God. And you're looking at it and you're like, cold water and ice, right? That's what everybody does. But they lock it into position, into quantum position. When you fully embrace it and say, oh, it's definitely burnt. And, I'm squeezing and everything and focused on the pain, I will lock it into a quantum position. This releases you from it. Nothing happened. My hand is perfect. And do this repeatedly for like 1 or 2 minutes and notice what happens. It's like, oh my God, how did that happen? My hand's flying. I just pulled a hot pan out of the oven with my bare hands. How did that happen? It's real. And got a lot of other stories, but I don't want to bore everyone with details, but you can do this for other people as well.
I can vouch for that. Actually, that happened to me right outside Bill's house. We were there for a seminar and I stubbed my toe right into a piece of metal and it ripped the skin back. You know how sensitive your toes are. And so Bill's like, nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. And he's waving his hand over my toe. And I'm like, I think he's finally lost it. I think he's finally lost his mind. Nothing happened, nothing happened. And sure enough, I mean, I still had the little skin on my toe, but it didn't hurt. And, toes can be so painful and mine are exceptionally sensitive. And it just stopped. It stopped hurting. And in a couple of days, there was nothing, not even a scratch. So anyway, guys, we have run up against our time. And so I just want to thanks, Bill, for that. That's a fun thing. Also, not medical advice. If you are bleeding, please go to the hospital. If you're bleeding severely. But for minor injuries, definitely try it. We've seen it work again and again. So Pam, any last words for the audience, the UK Health Radio around the world about being joyful, being in gratitude, being in light? What would you like to share with everybody today?
Well, I don't know, this just comes to mind that our true nature is complete joy and gratitude. That is our true nature. So if we're not in that, we're living out of our true nature. So how's that for a final thought?
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So appreciate everything you've done. I mean, you really, I'm sure, have changed many lives on the planet, including mine, and we just hope that you keep doing it, keep bringing that joy and that light to print so that people can find that joy and that light for themselves. All right, everybody in UK Health Radio Land, we will see you next week. Thanks for being here with us, Bill McKenna.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
On the flip side, everybody. Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.